to talk to you about vision and purpose for your life. You see, I believe honestly that we've become masters at suppressing the calling that we have on our lives, and I don't think we do it intentionally. I honestly believe that it's just because of the busyness of our generation and the busyness of our lives, and our daily routine has actually become like a prison cell. Everything we do in routine is literally keeping us where we are. If we don't do anything out of that routine, it's literally a barred in jail cell for your life. I think we all start with some sort of vision or purpose for our lives, and that's the thing that gives us meaning and direction for our lives. And when we lack that sense of direction, it's very easy for life, all the short-term circumstances to direct you rather than the purpose. So your needs today far outweigh your purpose for tomorrow. And when that happens, it eats away at your soul, it eats away at your identity, it eats away at everything you are, to the place where you might be left with a void. And it's very, very easy to try fill that void with alcohol, bad relationships, even suicide. I actually asked a group of people the other day how many people had actually thought about suicide in their lives. And I was actually really surprised at the answer. I was expecting a few to answer honestly and say they had thought about it, but every single person I asked answered me honestly, and they said that they had thought about killing themselves before. And I honestly believe that it's linked to a lack of purpose in our lives. Without a purpose, your life becomes meaningless, and you live in a state of hopelessness because your hope is just to get to the end of the day. Your life becomes about drawing breath rather than living life. And Paul actually says in Corinthians 9:26, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. No, I beat my body and make it my slave. The Oxford Dictionary defines purpose as doing something with intent and aim. It's doing something intentionally and not by accident. You see, Paul was saying, I do not run like a man with no purpose. His actions had a purpose, a long-term fulfillment of purpose. See, you still have to survive every day. You still have your daily obligations, your routine that you have to do. But when you have a purpose in sight, your decisions, your attitudes, your mind, everything shifts slightly. Just enough for you to start moving in a different direction, which might actually change the course of your life. He also said, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. You see, there's also an urgency when it comes to purpose. A lot of us, even myself, we put off doing things to the point where tomorrow never actually comes. He didn't say, do not walk like a man walking aimlessly. He said, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. There was an urgency to fulfilling the purposes of God in his life. And I think it's actually important for us to get this point, because if we don't start where we are, as small as possible, it doesn't have to be a big change. There's a principle that's spoken of. I don't know where I heard it, but it's a principle of a 1 degree change. And basically, working in engineering, this actually makes a lot of sense to me. You can't always change giant leaps in your life at the same time, because life doesn't work that way. But you can make small little changes, things that might seem meaningless and pointless to you, but something out of your daily routine, something that might lead you to a different path. See, a 1 degree change over a short space this big, you can't even notice. It looks like a straight line. But if you have to take that and spread it over a distance, it could change the location of where you end completely. So you might not be able to make giant leaps of change all of a sudden right this second, but there are small things you can do today that might move you in a different direction. And as you move in that direction, doors might open, and as those doors open, new opportunity might arise, and your 1 degree change might become a 10 degree, a 15 degree, and slowly and gradually you start making changes towards your purpose, something you feel called to do. Paul also said he does not beat the air like he does not fight like a man beating the air. And the word translated as fight over there is actually a term in the Greek which is taken from a boxing term. And the most important thing about boxing is your footwork. They tell you have to keep moving, because the longer you stand in one place, the more likely you are to be knocked down, because you become an easier target. You're a sitting duck. So I think Paul was literally saying, you have to keep going. You have to keep moving, because the longer you stay in one spot, the more depressed you become. The more negative thoughts you attract. The daily routine becomes more constant and more constant, until eventually it becomes crusted around you, so you can't break free from it. And you may notice my background might change throughout my videos, and that's because I have 3 kids, and it's quite difficult to do anything when you have kids. So bear with me as I try to change my 1%. In James 4:2 and 3, it says, "You do not have because you do not ask, and when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives." And I think this is relevant to purpose in our lives, because if your motive is your destiny, then you'll be moving towards your destiny. But if your motive is only about today and getting through today, then life is just going to be that, breathing to survive another day instead of living towards a purpose. And the Oxford's Dictionary actually defines motive as the enabling force to produce movement. Now I want you to get that, because that's quite powerful. It's the enabling force to produce movement. So that means if your motive is different to what's coming out of your mouth and the actions of your life, then that motive is going to move you away from your purpose. It's not going to move you towards your purpose. So if we want to truly fulfill our destiny and our calling on our lives, we have to evaluate the motive, the enabling force. Because if our motive is purpose, then it will produce some sort of long-term change, some sort of change that is not part of your daily routine. Because if your energy is spent simply surviving today, then you won't be moving forward. If you plant a seed, you don't see growth straight away. Jesus said if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you could move a mountain. And what we don't realize is he used something that's living, something that's tiny. He didn't say the quantity of faith you need is little. He said faith as small as a mustard seed. A mustard seed is something that can grow, something that can expand, something that takes time. And in the beginning, it actually looks like there's nothing. I enjoy gardening, and I can tell you now, sometimes I'll plant seeds and I'll wait months before anything happens, because maybe I'm not that great at it. But eventually that seed will sprout and germinate. But you actually don't see anything on the surface. It's all underground. And the same thing is true about our purpose. See, if we make small changes, it might seem like absolutely nothing is happening in our lives, but in the background, under the surface, there's going to be change. And it might not all happen at once, but when the season comes, there's going to be a plant. And when the season changes, that plant is going to grow. And as it grows, it's going to bear fruit. And as it bears fruit, you harvest. And I think a lot of us think that we need to make big changes right this minute in order to fulfill our destiny. And that's not how it works. You have to do it little by little, and as the opportunity arises and your heart is prepared to receive it, you actually grow into your purpose, and your daily routine slowly shifts and slowly shifts and slowly shifts until eventually you actually in the place where you're supposed to be. In Jeremiah, let me just find this here. I actually wrote it down somewhere. In Jeremiah 1:5, God tells Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you a prophet to nations." See, this was how God saw Jeremiah. But I want you to look at how he responded. This is what he said. "Ah, sovereign Lord," I said, "I do not know how to speak. I am only a child." See, this was how Jeremiah saw himself. He didn't believe he could do it. See, when you have a purpose that you're working towards, it's going to seem unattainable. The dream is going to be bigger than you, and it's going to be more than you're capable of. But it doesn't mean that you're not called to do it. And it actually goes on to say, okay, let me go back a little bit. See, that's how Jeremiah saw himself. He saw himself with limitations. He was focusing on the boundaries of his comfort instead of focusing on expanding beyond what he knew. And comfort will keep you in your daily routine. It will keep you a prisoner in your daily routine. If you have faith that your purpose is bigger, then faith claims territory. It will grow. It will get bigger. And you see, when God reveals the purpose of your life, it's only to prepare you for the battle. It's not to puff up your ego. It's not to make you feel good about yourself. It's actually preparing you for what's to come. After he said Jeremiah was called to be a prophet to nations, and Jeremiah said, "Oh, sovereign Lord, I can't do it." He goes on to reassure Jeremiah, but then he says, "Get yourself ready." You see, the vision is only to prepare you to respond to what is required of you. And if we don't have the vision, then we have nothing to respond to. We have no direction for our lives. "I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." You see, you can't have hope without having vision for something. So you actually have to have something you're hoping for. But what few people realize is God wasn't talking to people that were doing well. He wasn't talking to people that were prospering. He was talking to people that had just been taken captive. Their families were murdered in front of them. Their farms were taken away from them. They were forced to leave their country. They were bloody. They were beaten. They were defeated. And God still said, "I have plans for you." And later on, he actually says in Jeremiah 31:21, God says, "Set up road signs, put up guideposts, take note of the highway, the road that you take." See, I believe that's symbolic, again, of having goals. You have to set guideposts. If you don't have markers along your way, then you'll never get there. You'll always get lost. You'll get distracted by side decisions that only require your attention today. When it comes into conflict with your purpose and your need, and you don't have vision, you're always going to make your decision based on your need today. And if we want more for our lives, we need to expand our vision. We need to see beyond where we are and see where we're going to. And again, I'm not saying abandon your responsibilities. I'm not saying you can just stop doing what you need to do on an everyday basis. That's not the point of what I'm saying today. The point of what I'm saying is there has to be gradual change. Whether you can make a large change, that's great. But if you can't, gradual change is the process of working towards your purpose. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not just going to fall into your lap. It's going to take energy, it's going to take effort, and it's going to take you out of your comfort zone. And if you're ready for that, then it's time to start examining your life. Examine your choices and see where you can make slight changes to get to the point where you want to be. And I don't know what it is you feel called to do. Maybe it's a doctor, a lawyer, a pastor. I don't know what it is you're called to do. But I do know that answer is inside of you, and the way to fulfill it is with God. And I hope this encourages you, and honestly, examine your motives, examine your enabling force, and go for it. These videos that I'm trying to make are based on what I feel called to do, and this is my 1 degree change. So I hope that you continue to listen and subscribe and like and follow, and hopefully we can all grow together, because that's what Christianity is all about. It's about growing together. We're part of one body. We're part of Christ, and we all work together for the greater good.